we're going to start by having each of the candidates introduce themselves, and we'll try to keep the introductions to 5 minutes per candidate, and then we'll get into questions. So for the questions, we'll sort of like alternate, you know, who responds first, and we'll try to keep responses to 2 minutes. And Michelle is going to help keep track of time. Ted has some questions that have been submitted ahead of time, but also we can certainly take questions here as well. Hopefully we have time.
If you have a question, jot it down, just raise it up in the air, I'll grab it from you. And I think you can also ask a question. Just
yeah, Ted has some. I have some that were pre-submitted through our QR code as well. Yeah. Okay, so I think we'll start to my right with Walter Hubley, running for Ward 3 Councilor.
Sure. Sal, is this good? Good? Okay. All right, talking about myself for 5 minutes straight. How am I going to do that? It's not going to be 5 minutes. My name is Walter Hubley, and I'm running for the Ward 3 City Council seat, and I respectfully ask for your vote. I'm originally from Quincy my whole life, except my origin, where I started from, was the New England Home for Little Wanderers in Jamaica Plain on Huntington Ave. The New England Home, now called The Home, was the United States' oldest orphanage and social services provider. And through that organization, I was put into foster care and brought into the loving arms of my parents, Edgar and Ruth Hubley, who did foster care for about 40 children over the course of 30 years. I was one of the last few at the tail end of I think they were in their 50s when they decided to bring me into their home. Anyways, I was very swiftly, within a year or so, adopted, grew up in Quincy, went to Quincy Public Schools. I went to Wollaston Elementary School, Central Middle School, North Quincy High School. I then went on to get my undergrad in business administration. And then after that, I got certificates in leadership and management through MIT Sloan, as well as their leadership development group at West Point. Where I live now, I live on Wollaston Hill in my family home that my parents bought in 1963, and I bought it from them in 1999, and I'm still working on it. And and that's where my wife and I, my wife Catherine, who's here tonight, we raised our 2 children, Victoria and Nathan. Both of them also went to public schools. In fact, both my kids had the same kindergarten teacher that I had, which, if you're a Ward 5 resident, you're a neighbor of hers, Miss Linda Beck, wonderful person. And today I work at the Community Builders. So I've had a couple of different careers, but currently I work at the Community Builders. And what we do is we design, build, manage, and provide services to affordable housing. And I do the technology design for all the security systems, Wi-Fi networks, and I also implement technology solutions to help bridge the digital divide in underserved communities. And we provide those types of services and do those types of housing pretty much all over the country in about 18 different states. So that's what I do for work. Now, I'm a first-time candidate, although some of you might recognize me from a few of the things I've done in the city. So first off, my wife and I founded the Wollaston Hill Neighborhood Association about 15 years ago, where we help our residents, our neighbors, with different quality of life issues. We also do a lot of community building things and a lot of advocacy things. We also run a popular concert series at Safford Park called Saturdays in the Park. Speaking of Safford Park, we also led the renovation of Safford Park, which was a community preservation project, where now that park has become our neighborhood hearth, where we run a lot of our programming. Additionally, some might know me from, I'm the lead organizer and the founder of Quincy Porch Fest, which we've been running for it's 9 years now. And then also, some might recognize me from my time as head of school or headmaster of the Woodward School, where I was for a few years after I served as a strategic advisor, and then later continued my advisory role with Woodward. And in my role there, I led the team that raised the largest donation since the school's founding in 1869, where we were able to completely renovate the entire campus in downtown Quincy. And others might know some of the work that I've done through the Rotary Club. I'm a member and past president. We do a lot of work. We raise about over $30,000 a year for deserving high school students in Quincy to go to college. We help a lot of nonprofits. And then we also have done an international project in person in Thailand where we helped an organization that's nearly eradicated human trafficking in the hill tribe villages of northern Thailand. My platform, so I want to continue the community building work that I've done on Wollaston Hill, but I want to encourage people and support people in doing so throughout the ward. So I want to continue that work. The other part of my platform, the second pillar, is just tough oversight. I believe that there shouldn't be a rubber stamp, that every proposal in front of the council should get one's professional scrutiny and interrogation on things. And I think the city also needs to be responsive to constituents. So if you're having trouble, getting response for services, that's the role I also want to play. And then lastly, I want to advocate, which is something I've already been doing, for responsible development. I know Massachusetts has a housing challenge, low inventory. I believe Quincy's done more than their share to contribute to the inventory for housing. And I feel like we need to make sure that if we are going to do more development, that we're doing it in focused, thoughtful ways, near mass transit, near the expressway, just more thoughtful and protective of the neighborhoods. We have a lot of history here and a lot of beautiful neighborhoods. That's one thing that's special about Quincy. So yeah, that's my platform. And again, my name is Walter Hubley. I'm running for the City Council seat in Ward 3, and I respectfully ask for your vote.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kathy Thrun. I'm also running for Ward 3 City Councilor. And in a strange twist of fate, my husband actually started at the same orphanage as yours. So I don't think you were there at the same time.
Maybe a different time.
Maybe a different time. I've lived in Quincy for 50 years. We raised our son here, who subsequently became a lieutenant in the New York Police Department, and also graduated from Cornell, his undergrad degree, and right now is at Harvard getting his master's in public administration. So I want to tell you right now and here, the Quincy school system is good, okay? I know Quincy. I've been an activist for the most part. I'm retired right now, but I worked with Quincy Environmental Network to pass the Community Preservation Act. I also launched the effort to stop the filling of the Ruth Gordon Amphitheater, and I have been pretty loud and proud to talk about financial decisions that have been made in the city, and also about giving developers bigger deals than I think they deserve. I too am experienced and also well-educated. I have degrees in chemistry, business, and engineering from Boston University, Harvard, and Tufts. But I also had a very unique career for many, many years. I worked as a consultant, contractor, program manager. I actually wound up running huge programs, some of them with thousands of people and tens of millions of dollars at risk, all over the world and all over the country. And I really want to bring all that experience to here. You know, the Hospital Hill Neighborhood Association has fascinated me for years, okay? I must admit, I haven't been involved. However, I remember the fight over Hospital Hill and Ashlers and Fox Rock like it was yesterday. And I'm glad the traffic has not been as bad as everybody was worried about, because I was scared of it, but it hasn't been that bad. But the truth of the matter is, we don't have a hospital in Quincy. And I'll tell you, that still bothers me. It was closed in 2014, the emergency ward closed in 2020. I think we're the only city of this size in Massachusetts without a hospital. And I'm not sure that the Foxrock medical offices are going to make up the difference of not having a hospital. We are getting a lot of apartments and restaurants in Quincy, and that's better. But what do we need? We need zoning laws and building codes that respect neighborhoods and the environment. We need infrastructure to build against coastal and inland flooding. We need to reduce traffic via better public transportation, walkability, and bicycle paths. As a city councilor, I can help achieve some of that. The city council can write ordinances, i.e. local laws, and we can get some building codes and walkability and zoning laws that work a little bit better than what we have right now. But there is a problem, and the problem is money. Okay, we're in $1.6 billion worth of debt, but worse than that is our Standard & Poor's rating was lowered, and it was deemed as a negative outlook. That combination is pretty unique. Usually an outlook remains neutral. A negative outlook means that there might be another downgrading, and that means that Quincy gets to pay more interest for any loans that might be needed. Furthermore, our reserves have been depleted. It was $2 million, okay? Towns like Cambridge, same size as Quincy, have hundreds of millions of dollars. Well, I think Quincy in FY26 is saying we have $2 million. That's not a lot of wiggle room. Just in case something bad happens, that's not a lot of wiggle room, and debt will cost us more. The money spent on schools is money well spent. It's money spent on public safety, roads, sidewalks, building resiliency, money well spent. However, I take exception to money being spent on statues, on money being lost to developers for tax deals, and for buying high, selling low to the developer. I take exception to those things. I take exception to a 79% raise for the mayor, and I did help to collect signatures. And some people may disagree with me, that's okay. But these are the things that matter to me, and managing your money means a lot to me. I will use the tools available to city councilors. Quincy's fiscal health is teetering, and that will be exacerbated by federal assistance probably disappearing. We've got to make sure that we get updates from the city department. In fact, the city council can investigate a city department. What if we had done that with the elder services department? Okay, that's part of the responsibilities of the Quincy City Council. We can cut budgets, we can cut debt, we can even say no to debt. And you might say, okay, well, the mayor can veto it. Okay, we got to go back to the city council. Anyway, I want to be here for you. I want to be accountable, I want to be transparent, and many thanks. I'm Kathy Thrun, so I hope you vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you to our Ward 3 councilors. So Ward 5, Maggie McKee, you can speak first, and then we'll go to Dan Minton. You can move that forward if you want, or hold it.
Can everybody hear me? Okay, great. So my name is Maggie McKee. I'm a mom, a community activist, and a former award-winning journalist. The most important thing to know about me is that I literally cannot stay silent when I see injustice. So I learned how to speak out from my mom, a single mom who took me to protests at the White House. I'm from DC, and to stuff envelopes from the time I was tiny. I'm also curious by nature. I studied physics in college, and then I went to teach English in Vietnam and Japan. And then I embarked on a career in science journalism. My husband and I moved to Wollaston 16 years ago to raise our family, and over time I got to be more involved in the community, and I served on the board of Quincy Climate Action Network and ran a city task force on food waste. I also started the Quincy Tree Alliance and Quincy Votes. So last year, when the mayor and council proposed and voted to give themselves 79% and 50% pay raises without any consultation from the people, I helped organize a petition drive to legally undo the pay hikes. We collected 6,000 signatures in just 20 days, falling short of the 8,000 needed to repeal the raises, but we did succeed in delaying them. The raises, I believe, are a symptom of a larger culture of complacency and going along to get along that allows bad ideas to slide through unchallenged in the council. Last year, in fact, 99.4% of the council's votes were unanimous, even on controversial issues. That lack of debate and rigor has real-world impacts. Our debt and unchecked spending have caused Quincy's bond rating to be downgraded, as Kathy said. That can make borrowing more expensive, which means fewer services for more money, and potentially tax hikes. And still, there's no discussion or debate. I'm running to offer a different kind of leadership. I believe in dialogue, in knocking on doors and hearing what people have to say, in doing my homework, in asking tough questions. I believe in government of, by, and for the people. I hope to earn your vote for Ward 5 Council on November 4th. I promise to be a councilor who shows up, listens, and speaks out. And you know I will, because as I hope I've demonstrated here, I literally cannot help myself. Thanks.
Good evening. My name is Dan Minton. I'm your Ward 5 City Councilor. I was born at Quincy Hospital. Anybody else? Okay. When I first became City Councilor, Quincy City Hospital / Ashler Park was my biggest headache. And Councilor Phelan told me, be ready, because there's going to be all sorts of issues, and he was true. I grew up on Fennell Street and moved to Sims Road. I went to college at University of Connecticut for my master's degree in social work, and I also got a degree in criminal justice administration. I went to public schools in Quincy. All my kids went to the same schools that I did, Beechwood Central, North Quincy High School. Of my 4 children, 2 are Quincy teachers. 1 is a Quincy police officer, and 1 is a college professor. I've enjoyed my first 2 years helping so many people resolve issues, whether it was a neighbor's complaint, a low-hanging limb, or a question about an upcoming project. The key issues in Ward 5 are the Eastern Nazarene College sale and the rehabilitation of a sailor's home pond, both works in progress. The neighborhood club will join in soon. One of my proudest moments on the city council was when I created a city ordinance for city workers that if they donate stem cell and they actually get called, that they would be covered through the state for up to 30 days, whether it be for the testing or the actual donation of bone marrow. In addition, the state does not cover blood donations, and we got that also supported in the city ordinance. This came about because of a city worker that lives in Quincy, and she ended up losing 27 days of vacation and sick time. And so we want people to be able to donate without fear of losing their time. One major issue with the City Council's proposed raise for $48,000 a year, but was dropped to $44,500 and approved. Presently, I'm getting $30,000 a year. At the time, I said I could only support a more reasonable raise based on no raise for 9 years times 3% cost of living, which equals roughly $8,000. So I'm supporting a total of $38,000 for my salary. For those elected, the raise goes into effect in January, but as I've told people, I stand by the position of $38,000. So if reelected, I will donate the $6,500 to the following groups: Interfaith Social Services, where I volunteer and experience firsthand the fantastic work that we do, $2,000. Quincy Veteran Services to help our local heroes, $2,000. The Friends of Ruth Gordon Amphitheater to support more arts for our residents. The remaining money would be donated during the year to needs and causes as they arise. This would come from my salary, not from campaign money. While on the talk of campaign money, I have not, nor will I take any donations from developers, builders, or trade unions. I have sent back many checks totaling over $7,000. Personally, I see it as a conflict. I spent a 40-year police career. Many of you may remember me from A Job Well Done in the Quincy Sun. That was my claim to fame that I'm going to have the rest of my life, I think. I was also in charge of crime prevention and anti-crime unit, so if anything that we couldn't get accomplished by the regular patrol, I would send my guys out, whether it be 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, out on bicycles. They didn't really care for that idea, but we did it. In closing, I see myself not as a politician. I'm just a person who loves the city. I just want to get the job done as I did in my 40-year career as a police officer, helping lots of people without accolades. I ask you to vote for me, Dan Minton, for Ward 5 City Councilor. Thank you.
All right. Okay, thank you. All right, so I think we'll start back over here with Ward 3. And for responses to these questions, we'll ask for 2 minutes per response. So Michelle's keeping time, so she can, give a little symbol when you're assigned, when you're running low on time. So I'll start with our one question that was submitted online ahead of time. Thank you for whoever used our Google form. So we'll start with Kathy this time, and then Walter, you can respond, and then I think these questions apply to both Ward 3 and 5, so I think we can try to have all candidates answer and, try to get through them pretty quickly here. So here's a question from a neighborhood member online. I'm curious about your stance on bike lanes in the city. Is this something you'll be in favor of and prioritizing if elected?
I would be in favor. Oops, can you hear me now?
You can hold it if you want to.
No.
I think Saul says hold it.
Huh?
Saul said hold it.
Okay, well, here, can you hear me? Okay. I do believe in bike lanes. I don't particularly like the bike lanes we have right now. Every time I go down Adams Street, I think I'm going to kill somebody. It's always a question of money, okay, and whether or not we have the money to do appropriate biking lanes that mean safety not only for the bike rider, but e-bikes have had accidents lately, and so we want to be safe for the pedestrians too. So short answer, yes, as long as we can do it well and as long as we can find the appropriate sources of money to do that.
Thank you. All right, Walter?
Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, I would be very much in favor of expanding the bike lanes in Quincy, but even beyond that, there's a couple of other different things, and among them, I don't know if anyone's heard of the President's Coast project, but a friend of mine, PJ Foley's been championing it for a couple of years, and if you haven't heard about it yet, you will soon. And this is an alternate path to get from Quincy Center down towards the coast and then along the coast and to kind of bridge all these different areas together. There's some existing infrastructure that can be leveraged in terms of previously constructed bridges that still have I think they're called pilings, the things that hold them up. So I'm very excited about exploring all that, as well as just a robust water transportation infrastructure is very important. I think it's an all-of-the-above solution for a lot of the traffic issues that we see here, but bikes are definitely a piece of that. And I used an e-bike during Porch Fest. Man, that thing's cool. I might end up having to buy one of those. I'm a big fan of it, very, very much in favor.
Thank you. All right, Dan, why don't you answer first for this one, and then Maggie.
Thank you for the question. I bike everywhere. I bike every day. It's the way I get around. When a constituent wants to talk to me about an issue, I say, I'll be right over. And they say, you don't have to come over. I said, no, I need to come over because I need to get a bike ride in. I meet a lot of people at Panera. That's my office up north. And to the southern part of the beat, I meet them at City Hall. I really enjoy biking, but you have to be really careful. This is an old city, and it's not meant really for bike lanes. That's why we don't have a lot of continuous lanes. We have on Southern Artery a good section going from Marymount Parking Way down to Washington Street, but it's difficult to continue on. Some of these streets are just too narrow. You have cars parked, so it gets a little bit dangerous. There's also the 4-foot law, the move-over law. And if you're going on a bicycle, these cars have to pull over away 4 feet, technically. And if they do that, in many cases, they're going into the opposite lane. So it makes it a little bit dangerous. In my police career, I've seen a lot of bad accidents. And it's usually the automobile driver that causes the accident. But in this city, you have to be really careful when you're biking. You have to be aware of your surroundings. Knowing the secondary roads, even though they may not have a bike path, is sometimes safer. For example, going down Fennel Street to Billings Road to get to Norfolk Downs, sometimes it's safer. A lot of people don't know this, but on pole 60 on Wallaston Beach, it says, bicyclists yield to pedestrians. And so people yell at me all the time, no bikes on the sidewalk. I said, go to see pole 60. It tells you right there you can use it. So you have to pick your path. Biking down Wallaston Beach out to Marina Bay is basically one crosswalk. So it's a pretty safe route to take. But you have to be really careful. You have to be really cognizant of your surroundings. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, so I am definitely for more bike lanes. And I think one of the things that probably all of us have heard as we've talked to people is, concerns about traffic, concerns either the traffic's moving way too fast on some streets or just totally stalled in other spots. And so I think whatever we can do to get more cars off the road while also making it safer for pedestrians and bicyclists with those little sticks, the bollards that stick up, maybe we might need to think about where we might want to have more of those around. I think we need to think about all of the above as well. I know I was talking to someone who also said she wished that her kids could have a place to bike to school, like, every school could have bike parking, which my son's school does, which is so great. But we need to make things safer so that kids can actually bike to school and you wouldn't worry so much. So, yeah, I think we need to think very carefully. We have this wonderful group, Quincycles. We should be talking with them. We should be meeting, have the actual city council committees that aren't meet so that we can work on some of these issues and improve the safety.
Thank you. All right. If you're okay with speaking again, I'll just come right. You can go first for the next one. So we'll start with kind of like we have these separated into some more like financial related questions. So this would be, how would the city prepare for setback for veterans funding, FEMA, education, et cetera? So I think thinking about like how to prepare for like potential funding losses for those sorts of programs.
Oh, so an easy one. So I am very concerned about what's happening at the federal level. We are looking at we're already seeing them, with the shutdown, but also with funding cuts all over the place. So I think we're really going to have to think, really think more carefully about ways that we can raise money here to support everyone that we need to support. Some ideas include like a real estate transfer fee. So if there were high-end real estate deals, a small percentage of that would go to affordable housing. And yeah, I think we need to think about making that money here because even state funding is going to dry up. And I know I was at a meeting back maybe in the spring where local organizations that get federal funding for HUD, affordable housing, we're all just talking about how already, before the cuts happened, they were seeing more and more people at food banks, more and more people lining up at homeless shelters. So part of what makes me upset about some of the city's other spending is the opportunity cost of where it's not going. So to spend $1 million on religious statues for a public safety building, not only do you just worry about the constitutional issues of church and state, but also just the amount of money, how much $1 million would go towards other things when we are seeing these funding cuts. So I think one of the major things that a city councilor can do is to, they're in charge of the purse strings, so they can say no to different budget items. Okay, thanks.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, sure. So what are your thoughts on how the city could prepare for setbacks in veterans funding, FEMA funding, education funding, et cetera? So I think loss of state and federal funding.
Okay, so firstly, you'd have to look at some of the waste that goes on in the city budget. Some of the hirings that they've done recently, as an example, 2 scam specialists, one at the Council on Aging and one at the Police Department. From 2015 to 2005 to 2020, I was a crime prevention specialist. You didn't need to hire 2 people to do this. It was easily covered. There's just so much waste that we can reduce and we can tighten our budget. As for FEMA, the director for the Quincy Emergency Management is well-equipped. He has pretty much what he needs to handle any emergency, and the fire department is well-trained. The police department has plenty of personnel. Thank you.
Thanks. Or here, Kathy, why don't you go next?
Okay, this time I'll...
Do you want me to-
Okay. That's a big concern for me, for veterans, for FEMA, for education. Of those 3, FEMA actually worries me the most. I worked in disaster recovery for a few years, for a couple of years post-Katrina Rita. I saw the worst of the worst with flooding. So FEMA money and disaster recovery HUD money is going to probably be diminished. There's a couple of ways that we can handle that here. We have to build our reserves. Well, how do you build reserves? You cut your budget, you cut your debt, and also I think you lean on the developers more. Okay, there have been various tax deals given to them and buy high, sell low type of stuff, but we need to lean on them more. The other thing is we need retail and entertainment, not just restaurants, because we need to build our commercial tax base. Right now, I assume that we're all residential homeowners here. I might be wrong, but...
Not necessarily.
Okay, but even apartment dwellers, 75% of our budget comes from residential homeowners. Okay, that's a lot. That's an awful lot. So we need to look at those things, because FEMA is the scariest. I come from a family of veterans, so yes, I'm concerned about veteran housing and support, and of course, I care deeply about education.
2 microphones, all right. Not used to this, but that's okay. We'll go with it. So yeah, I want to reinforce or echo what Councilor Minton said in terms of sharpening the pencil and looking at a lot of the city departmental budgets if we get to that point. All of those categories of spending or categories of funding are amazingly important. My dad was in World War II in Korea, and my son and I are members of the Sons of American Legion in his honor. So we're very familiar with the importance of veteran services. And I think Kathy hit really the right note when it comes to, we have to build up our reserves. And part of what led to, a portion of what led to the downgrade of our bond rating had something to do with our level of reserves. And so if you see on the horizon that there's a category of spending that's outside of your immediate control in terms of collection of revenue, you got to start to work on your reserves and then supplemental revenue streams. So I think everyone on the panel actually hit a lot of good notes on that particular one. And yeah, that's what I had in my notes. So thanks.
Thank you. All right, Dan, are you okay with going first for the next question here? Okay, so I'm going to give you, yeah. Okay, so the next question is, what is your position of Lunar New Year? Do you support having it as a city holiday?
Yes, I do support having it as a holiday. One of the things that I threw around to a bunch of people in my community was that to have it on a rotating day, and if it falls on a Monday, or scratch that, if it falls on a Saturday or Sunday, do not take a Monday or a Friday off, just so that school can continue, so you don't get out in July. But I do support it.
Here, we can just go right down the table here.
There you go.
Is it possible to address any of the last comments at all, or is we just
Oh,
stick
did I
with-
skip you? I'm sorry.
No,
Oh.
no, just what was said by other
Oh,
people?
I'd like to try to keep it to the 2 minutes here for these questions, because, okay.
Okay.
We have a lot of questions.
Okay. So, yeah, so I do support Lunar New Year as a school holiday, and I know that it's come up, there's been a debate between the city council and the school committee, politics of which I don't really understand, but the city council supports it as being a school holiday, and the school committee didn't have enough votes to make it a school holiday. So the city council actually wanted to, they made a resolution to do it, and so when that didn't happen, some of the people on the city council said they wanted to actually talk to a lawyer and maybe take this to court so the question would be settled as to who can make this decision. And that hasn't happened. So I think it's a very strange issue, and I know Councilor Minton, you voted against it the second time, but for it the first time, because of school committee being in charge of calendars, which I understand. But anyway, I think it would be a very important thing to get settled. And I think it should probably be taken to court or decided upon somehow so that this can kind of come to a resolution. But I think our population, I think there's 40% of the school population is Asian, and I think that's, you know, if you're going to choose some setting of the population to go for a holiday, it certainly seems like 40% would be enough to tip the balance and make that so that you can celebrate a holiday, especially when we have Good Friday, which is a Catholic holiday.
Can I just address that? She brought my name up.
Thank you, sure.
Okay, so the point I made at the time was that the school committee gets elected as the city council gets elected, but their specific goal and interest is the best for the schools, and so I defer to the school committee to make the decision. Thank you.
Dane. Go ahead, Cal.
I really love the diversity of this city. My son is Korean, and one of the reasons that we remained in Quincy was because of the Asian population. I thought it was important. I've celebrated Thanksgiving in Korea on numerous occasions, and there's similarities and differences. It's about ancestors in Korea, but it's also about really good food. So am I in support of lunar holiday? Yes, most definitely. If 40% of our children are Probably, how many of that is Chinese? Does it matter? Yes, it does. But they should be supported. And Lunar Holiday is a great holiday that I fully support. I'm not sure if the city council has a real say about it or not. But it's something, yeah, of course I'd love to have a lunar holiday, but we got to make sure the school calendar works too. Okay? Thank you.
All right, yeah, the cord isn't really long enough, but I'll just reach out over the table here. Yeah, so the Lunar New Year, what the city council did in its vote was specifically to, well, first off, I'm in favor of it. What the city council did with its vote was to create a school holiday. And the challenge with that, the Education Reform Act of, Frank, help me out, what year? I forget. Basically, it really clearly defined the roles of the local council, state delegation, as well as the school committee. And in that definition, it made it very clear the school committee controls the schedule of the schools and the school buildings. And so the reason why and then the school committee sought a legal opinion to back that up, which they did, which they posted on their website. What the council could have done is, and I've spoke to the state delegation, all of our representatives and senators about this, what they could have done is done a home rule petition, which would have given them the authority to do an actual city holiday, which, if they did that, they could have taken yes for an answer from the school committee, which honors all city and state and federal holidays. So that's the pathway that the council didn't take that they could have taken in order to make it an actual holiday. I tell you, living in Quincy, of course, experienced and celebrated Lunar New Year for many, many years. Also, so after my wife and I did foster care during COVID, we switched over to doing hosting for students from Hong Kong, mainland China, Vietnam, and one from Costa Rica as well. And we currently have a wonderful young girl from mainland China with us this year, attending Archbishop Williams. And you learn a lot when you live with someone for an entire year and stay in touch with them over the years. The kids that we've cared for do come back to visit, and we just learn. We learned a lot celebrating with them in our home. And so I can definitely appreciate it. The one thing we do need to factor in, though, is there are other types of holidays like Songkran for a number of the different Southeast Asian populations. So there's more than just Lunar New Year's. There's other things we should be considerate of and mindful of in our way of handling this. So,
Thank you. Thank you. All right, we have a lot of questions and not a lot of time, but
We'll do quicker.
yeah,
Cut it back to 1 minute.
rapid fire. Okay, you have the mic, so here, why don't you start? Will you attend board and commission meetings and report back to ward constituents? And which board or commission do you think is impactful?
You said border?
Board and commission, or board or commission
Okay, I
meetings?
think the commissions that I would prefer to go to, I like the elder services. I'm trying to think of, there's a lot of commissions and boards in Quincy. We also have a lot of committees in the city council, but none of them seem to be active except for 3 or 4 of them. So I'd have to think about that one, but certainly we have a bicycle commission, we have elder services commissions, we have coastal commissions. It would actually depend on what's important to my ward constituents.
Thank you. Here, I'll go Maggie. Oh, nope, yeah, sorry. These two.
So I am no longer involved with Quincy Votes because I'm running for office, but when I started it and I was on the board, one of the issues that we really wanted to work on was that a lot of these boards, and there are so many boards, meet, there's not a lot of notice about them, and what happens is very consequential often, but people don't know about them, and then the meeting notes might be just a 2-second thing, 2-line entry. One example is when the park board meeting met a few years ago and said that they decided to repurpose the Ruth Gordon Amphitheater. That went under the radar, totally unnoticed until Kathy actually posted it on social media that she had found out from someone else that that was happening. So I think that we really, one thing that Quincy Votes did was to actually start sending volunteers to these board meetings. So they would go to the park board meeting, they would go to the library board meeting. We were choosing ones that tend to be less visited by the press. So the press typically covers the planning board meeting and zoning board meeting, but these smaller ones that can have a big impact weren't being covered. And it was a really interesting experience to send people there. The departments were not always happy to see residents there taking notes and publishing them on the Quincy Votes website, which I think is a problem overall in the city about transparency. The city was not welcoming, did not want to have a lot out in the open. So, I mean, that's why I think it was really important that we did that we sent people there to just get the city used to it. Okay, thank you.
With the Wollaston Center undergoing huge projects, the 302 units where CVS is, you meet with the planning department constantly. It's almost every other day about a question a citizen calls, needs an answer. I talked to planning today regarding the cut-through from to the neighborhood club to the back street. A resident was concerned that it should be a right-of-way so that you can cut through to get to the T faster. And then planning didn't have the answer. Talked to zoning, they didn't have the answer. And finally, the law office gave me the results. You deal with these agencies on a regular basis. You're also, as a city councilor, assigned to certain boards, and one of mine is the Parks and Recreation, so I'm always in contact with them, whatever they need. And I'm good friends with the Council on Aging, people over there from all the years they're doing presentations as a police officer on safety. So I get to know them pretty well and help them with their needs. Thank you.
Thanks.
Repeat the question.
Sure. Will you attend board and commission meetings and report back to ward constituents? And which board or commission do you think is impactful?
Yeah, I think in terms of my personal interests, I'm very interested in environmental topics, so I would be very interested in focusing on that. In addition, veteran services is near and dear to my heart, and so I would very much, as well as elder services. So that's where I would like to focus in terms of if I had my choice. That said, if I saw a vexing issue that my ward was experiencing, you know, I would want to participate in that as well, but that would be my preference, those three things.
Thank you. All right, so we're at 8 o'clock, which is about wrapping up, so maybe we'll do one more question and then some closing statements. We'll keep the closing statements, you know, to a couple minutes, if that sounds okay to everyone. All right, so one more question here is, Walter, we'll start with you on this one. How will you work with the mayor's office since our government structure is strong mayor, weak council?
All right, where do I begin? I think it's an extension of what I've been doing for years. And I think when you come at things and communicate in good faith above the board and be persistent, you can get good results in the city of Quincy. I've done a lot of different things, a lot of things that people would look at me and say, "You're doing what?" Like, think Porch Fest 8-9 years ago. No one would have thought to do that. And the idea of doing that was it affects every city department and in a bunch of neighborhoods. So really, I think when you're passionate about what you want, when you have a track record of delivering good results. I mean, the renovation at Safford Park was game-changing for our neighborhood. There's a lot of things that we've done, and you can get things done, but it's really about consistently communicating in good faith and not giving up. We didn't get the money the first time for community preservation funding for the park, and I just decided to change that no to a yes, and we just persisted. We continued to get community support, and I think you got to build your case, and that's really one of the important roles of the city council, is to make the case for their community. So that's how I would continue to do what I've been doing, which has been very effective at making change for the betterment of the ward where I live and where my neighbors live.
Thank you. All right, yeah, we can, or we'll go back and forth. Why don't you go next, Dan? So, yeah, how would you work with the mayor on strong mayor, weak council?
So the best way to describe it is Sailor's Home Pond. I grew up down the street from there, fishing, skating, going around the pond, chasing each other, and it was a great place. And the water was clean. When I came on board, that was one of my first goals. Councilor Phelan had done some great work trying to get the project completed, but we needed funding. I worked with Chris Walker out of the mayor's office. We got federal funding for the pond, and now the pond is being dredged, and it's going to be restocked. The turtles have been taken out of the pond, placed in a safe place to let them return one day, and hopefully the project will be done by the end of November. So just basically working with people, explaining something that makes sense. You can get to make good progress by getting it done. The pond is going to be fantastic. It's going to be back with some goldfish, hopefully. And as a kid, everybody chased the albino, the white goldfish, and no one can ever see that again. So hopefully we'll get that back. Thank you.
Okay. Here, you want to go next, Kathy, and then Maggie, you can.
I know that we have a type A government, which is a strong mayor and a weak city council. However, the city council does have several powers. One of them is to create ordinances and laws, okay? The only one ordinance that I remember very clearly from our current city council was for raises, but we can do it for building codes and zoning and the like. The second thing is that the city council can actually investigate departments. They also can call for something called key performance indicators. Several cities have these where not only are elected officials, but also each of the departments are graded against these key performance indicators so that, you know, we're looking at the performance of our departments. And in particular, and I heard this actually from City Council, not City Attorney Timmons, the most powerful moments for the city council is during the budgeting time and during debt requests. That's when cuts can be made. Things can be changed. Okay, we can just cut it, but that's a very powerful tool that I don't believe has been fully used up till now.
Thank you. All right, Maggie, let's get you. Thank you.
Thank you. So, yeah, with the strong mayor system, as Kathy said, it's sort of like the national system where you have the president, in this case the mayor, and then the city council is like the legislative body, and it is supposed to act as a check and balance on the mayor's power. And it can cut the budget, it can say no to things, it can't add anything, but it can raise questions. It can also submit questions to the mayor, and the mayor or a representative has to answer within a week. The other thing that can happen and should happen and doesn't happen is more public comment. So when I read through the rules actually say that there's supposed to be a public hearing once every month on the second Monday of the month, and it specifies all these rules about how long people are allowed to speak, 10 minutes, and that even if the topic at hand, once that's covered, then everyone can speak after that on issues that are important to them. That is absolutely not happening, and when we have repeatedly asked for public hearings about the raises and the statues, we've been told no, and we've actually been told no because of the type of government we have. And the council president said, oh, we don't have that type of government. You weigh in at the ballot box. So every 2 years, you can choose your councilor, and if they voted for X, Y, Z, and you didn't like that, then you don't vote for them. So I really think that this council has not been pushing back enough, and not been pushing for the rights that we residents actually should have and do have according to the rules. The budget is another big one, as Kathy said, and I just did want to briefly go back. I totally agree that those 2 scam positions in the city should not have been funded, particularly because one of them was the mayor put forward with a particular person in mind. But that said, the council voted to pass that budget as is, did not suggest cutting those positions. That was a unanimous vote. So I do think that we need to push back and have more oversight.
Thank you. So we still have more questions, which if it's okay with the candidates, we can submit to you to respond via email or respond to me, and then we can send those out to the neighborhood association members. So I'll be sure to get your email addresses, because I think there's a lot of good questions really worth responding to. But I think we can kind of wrap up. So we'll plan for 2 minutes each for some closing remarks. We can start with Ward 3. Why don't we do Walter and then Kathy, or Kathy? Oh, you went first last time. Okay, go ahead, Kathy.
Just to be fair.
Right. Thank you. I
okay.
forgot already.
Thank you, Walter. Okay, I'm Kathy Tren. I'm running for Ward 3 City Councilor. I stink as a politician, quite frankly. I'm much more of an activist. I fight hard. I've fought hard, quite frankly, most of my life, and I want to fight hard for you. So hopefully I win your vote, and I'll see you as my Ward 3 City Councilor. Thank you.
All right. So again, my name is Walter Hubley. I'm running for the Ward 3 City Council seat. I've been doing a lot of different things in the city, and I've made a lot of impactful change, whether it was the renovation of Safford Park through the CPA funding, whether it was advocating and fundraising for the Woodward School for Girls, for the renovating the campus. Just down the list, I've done a lot in the city. And I think you can look at that, look at my track record of taking on very big challenges, creating real change that neighbors experience every single day, and say that I will take that to the Ward 3 City Council seat. I will work every bit as hard as I've been working for the past 15 years to do a lot of different things in this city and make the progress on things. The Ward 3 City Council seat is one person who has one vote among 9. And you can talk about what you want to do, but unless you can truly build the relationships and build the trust, not a lot's going to happen. And it's my belief that I've done a lot in the city that people benefit from every single day, and that's evidence of my ability to work with others, get the votes, get the support, and make things happen. So I would respectfully ask for your vote.
So we can go in opposite order here again too. So Dan first and then Maggie.
I think if you go back in history, I think I'm the only police officer that ever became a city councilor. And it brings a different perspective, public safety, knowing people, having connections. I think that I've proven myself. I get back to people the same day. I get results. I know the department heads. I work well with them. I work very well with them. Being in the city my entire life, I've got to understand the problems, and I would say that, let me just touch on this. Did anybody hear about the statues today? Okay. So, just quickly on that. I woke up one Saturday morning and I found the Ledger article saying statues are coming. And I went to Facebook right away because I was pissed. I really was. And I was really angry because Quincy Police Department has made incredible strides from when I became a police officer in 1980. It was rough and tough. It was lock them up. It was no time to spend with anybody. You just lock them up. And now we have social workers. We have crisis teams. And we actually spend time with people. And to me, to have a statue of a spear in the devil's eye, and unfortunately, I have the statue at home. Someone gave it to me when I first became a policeman. And it looked like a black guy with a spear in his eye. And I'm like, here we go with George Floyd. And this is the worst thing that could possibly happen. And so I wrote, and I went onto Facebook, that why not a Norman Rockwell picture of the trooper with the runaway? I mean, that's what the police department is about now. Quincy Police Department is excellent. They're compassionate, they care, and I'm proud to be one of their members. I wish I was a member now than I was in the 1980s, because that's the way police work is supposed to be. Thank you.
Thank you. So I really appreciate your comments on Facebook. I really, really appreciated that, because to have someone in your position of power to say that was wonderful. You don't hear enough of that. I'm running because I really think we need people who are going to represent the people, go out and listen, and then actively represent them, even if that means going up against what the mayor or what developers want. And I think I'm really excited about this election year because there's so many people running. That's so good for democracy. We don't usually have choice in Quincy, so I'm so grateful that all of you have come out on a rainy, cold evening. It makes my heart happy as someone who cares about civic engagement. So I'm really hoping that we can actually all tell all of our friends to vote and help them understand where people stand on issues, because and what will ask the candidates questions. So I think all of us have said that we're against the raises, and right now there's a legal action. Some residents have filed a legal complaint against the city for throwing out signatures of valid registered voters because the city clerk did not look at the printed names that were right beside the signed names. So while that's wending its way through the court system, we actually could ask the current city councilors, what will they do about those raises? They could do something right now about those raises. They could write an ordinance. They could say, you know what, we're going to take the language that all those people who signed, we could put it in an ordinance and actually make it. So ask some of these hard questions, because I think it's important to know what will people actually do, and how will we work together more. So anyway, thank you so much for coming out.
Well, thanks everyone for coming. We will collect responses on the additional questions and send those out to our neighborhood distribution list. Thank you.